Dear residents of Marsiling-Yew and fellow Singaporeans, I'm deeply honored to be back on stage again, speaking to a crowd of so many of you who have come out on a weekday evening to hear what we can say and to show your resolve for a better Singapore. I'm very proud to be speaking in support of the SDP's Marsiling-Yew team, led by our organizing secretary, Jufri Salim. And wasn't he great? Jijin Wong, Alec Top, and Arifin Shah, our Tamil poet. When SDP first announced our lineup for Marsiling-Yew, someone who I know and respect called me up and sent me a text. And she said, why is the SDP contesting in Marsiling-Yew? We need Lawrence Wong to remain as Prime Minister. And I replied, you know, we don't know whether he's going to move to East Coast or West Coast. It turned out I was wrong. It was actually my classmate, Dr. Tan Si Leng, who was moved from Marine Parade to Choa Chu Kang. And this is what Mr. Ong Ye Kung would call for PAP's political agenda, but not necessarily for the residents of Choa Chu Kang. My friend replied, he is a good man, one of the clearest thinking economists of the senior levels of government. I have no doubt that Mr. Lawrence Wong is an excellent economist, and it's good that he's able to communicate with senior leaders. I met Mr. Lawrence Wong a few years ago when he was guest of honor at a scientific congress that I was organizing, and I discovered we both shared an alma mater at the University of Wisconsin, where he did his undergraduate degree and I did my fellowship training. We both enjoyed the ice cream near the dairy school and also sitting on the terrace during the summertime. In fact, most people who have interacted with Mr. Lawrence Wong find him pleasant and charming. Just now you saw, those of you who are watching the live stream while we are going on, that he can be quite emotional as well. But I'm not quite sure that that's what we're looking for right now. What we are looking for is someone who is prepared to make the bold changes to turn Singapore around, to reverse the self-inflicted wounds, in particular the raised GST. The rise from 7% to 9%, together with all the other charges which have severely affected the quality of life of Singaporeans, which my colleagues have talked about just now. I'm not so sure that Mr. Wong is prepared to do that unless what, you might ask? Unless you send him a message. You, in particular, the voters of Marsiling-Yew. Let me take you back 15 years. In 2010, all the headline economic figures were good. Economic growth was a stunning 14.8% as Singapore achieved a rapid recovery from the great financial crisis of 2008-2009. Unemployment was low, HDB resale price increases were moderate. Yet despite all of these rosy numbers, the reality is that people were experiencing that life was not getting better. This is 2010, okay? People my generation and people a little bit younger can remember. The MRT was breaking down as it was strained by the population increase. Healthcare costs were spiraling out of control, and there was a long queue for HDB flats. Now, voters in the watershed general election of May 2011 sent a powerful message to the PAP. The PAP lost the GRC for the very first time in Aljunied, and Dr. Chi was barred from standing for election or campaigning, but the SDP sent a brand new team to Holland Bukit Timah, and they won 39% of the vote against an experienced PAP team led by Minister Vivian Balakrishnan, one of the Rajas of Rideout.
Boo!
Some of you may remember,
Boo!
he ran a smear campaign against the SDP's Winston Vijayasinghe.
Boo!
That did not work. The people of Singapore spoke up. And to their credit, the PAP then responded. They had major changes in housing, transportation. 2 former prime ministers left the cabinet. Other ministers were kind of sacked to take responsibility for the fiascos in transportation, internal security. You remember the Mas Selamat episode?
Yes.
Where we had a limping man who climbed on a roll of toilet paper and managed to swim across the streets of Johor with a flotation device. You know, that showed that even in Singapore, your vote counts. A lot of people in Singapore say there's no point in voting. 2011 proves that wrong. Okay, because the PAP got the message and they made some changes. Unfortunately, after 2011, we had 2 free elections. We had the 2015 election, which was the called very soon after the death of Minister Lee Kuan Yew. And then we had the COVID election of 2020, when we couldn't hold rallies like this. We have an opportunity now to allow Singapore to go back on the road to democracy that we started in 2011. It's time to go back with the 2011 general elections, presidential elections, and move Singapore to a place where we can all thrive. That's what we wanted in 2011, and we took a step back 2015 and maybe a little bit forward in 2020. Now, Mr. Wong was quoted in today's Straits Times front page, where he apparently has a regular column, as saying that this GE was about Singaporeans equipping themselves with the best team to take the nation forward. I have to say I agree with him in principle. I do, however, completely disagree with him with the methods. Now, some of you know I'm a great football fan. I grew up watching the Singapore football team play in the Malaysia Cup, the Siap Games in the National Stadium with Kwak Kim Song, who is now married to Sylvia Lim, Dola Kasim, Muhammad Noor, Raja Gopal. As any football fan will tell you, the way to get your football team better is to play against the best. If you try to shift the goalposts, cripple your opponents with professional fouls, change the rules of the game halfway, or cut short your opponent's training time to 28 days after the announcement of fixtures, it's just no good.
Yes!
It's not just no good for the opponents, it's also no good for you. You may win into a real game with good opponents, a stronger opponent, you have to play an away game in new and unfamiliar territory, you fall apart. And we don't want that for Singapore. What we want is for a number of strong opposition candidates, like the SDP candidates, to get elected into Parliament to help ensure that Singapore does indeed have the best team. In fact, we hope that perhaps 2 or 3 years from now, the team running Singapore will not be wearing white, but we'll be wearing red. Now here's where I was going to get you in trouble by telling you my analogy about Sir Alex Ferguson and all the managers who followed him. Then I realized that, I would alienate half the crowd, those people who never walk alone. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the main point of this story, and which is the key points of the SDP's manifesto. And the first T in the manifesto, Thrive, is about taxes. Now the GST is a really regressive tax. So the median income in Singapore is about $11,000, and average household in Singapore spends about $6,000 for routine expenses. So $6,000, you pay 9% GST, it ends up about $530. And that is actually 4.7% of your income. In contrast, you take the average minister, I think somebody asked that question just now, earns $128,000. Even assuming he lives a luxurious lifestyle, say spending 5 times as much as the average Singaporean, $30,000 a month, they still pay only $2,600 in GST. And this represents only 2% of our income. So basically what I'm trying to say with all that math is that the average person pays a far higher proportion of their income in GST than a high income person like a minister. And this is clearly unjust. And this is what we're trying to do, which is to get rid of GST for essential items and to bring the GST down to at least 7%, maybe 5%. And what we have shown is that this can be done. We've done our sums, and we've shown that the actual savings or the reduction in the income is actually even less than the budget surplus that has been projected. Now, if you think that we can't do that, people will say, hey, you're not the government, how are you going to bring down the GST? Now, when the vote was taken on the raise in GST, every single opposition MP in Parliament voted against the rise in GST. But there were too few of them. Now, you know what happens, right? You watch today in Parliament, you see half the house is empty. The PAP MPs are either at the toilet, or they're running their own business, or they're traveling. So there is a possibility that if you get enough opposition MPs in Parliament, that either the PAP MPs will work harder and show up in Parliament, or will be able to block such harmful legislation. So we are not going to be the government now, we're not going to be government in the next election, but maybe 2 elections from now, we will really get a chance to bring you to a Singapore where everybody can thrive. So what the SDP offers is a clear and ethical approach to taxation, which ensures that the needs of defense and internal security and the welfare of the people are taken care of fairly. The wealthy, who disproportionately benefit from the safe haven or safe environment provided by Singapore, should similarly at least pay a same proportion as the low-income Singaporeans, or ideally they should pay even more. We have a long way to go to reintroducing wealth taxes, including taxes on unearned income, but reducing the GST is one simple way to start the process of ensuring that those who benefit the most do not make the rest of us to pay for them to enjoy what we have built up through your hard work. So the SDP MP will be sure to raise the issues of taxation and its fairness soon after we are elected to Parliament. We would call on you to send a message to our Prime Minister and his team on 3rd May. Vote for the SDP for a better future.
Woo! Yes!
Vote for the SDP so you and your family can thrive and not just survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paul Tambyah. Once again, round of applause, please. Ladies and gentlemen, the final highlight of tonight, the people.